Absolutely. Some of the main takeaways, I think we can say, this is really a Commission president whose first term in office has been totally overtaken by a pandemic that nobody saw coming just 1 year ago. Ursula von der Leyen focusing on two key messages regarding the coronavirus pandemic. Firstly, she was really trying to put across the message that Europe has held together, which certainly hasn't always been the case during this crisis. But she said that Europe must now build on cooperation for a new future. So the major planks of that being economic recovery, of course, immediate things like jobs, long-term things like banking union, digital transformation, and then also that big European Green Deal that you might remember many months ago was supposed to be the big theme of Ursula von der Leyen's first term in office. Now, on that European Green Deal, there has been a big policy announcement. The European Commission going to be proposing more ambitious emission reduction targets than before. That got some applause in the chamber. And she said, we've proved that what's good for climate is good for business and for all of us. So appealing to business sensibilities there. A couple of other internal EU matters to mention. Took quite a big swipe at member states that are being found not to respect rule of law. She talked about states needing to be part of an annual report that the European Commission is going to put together to highlight whether there's backsliding among any member states. And she said that the European Commission will stop EU funds from being misspent where fraud and corruption is found. There was a specific mention of Poland, where several municipalities have LGBTI-free zones set up by local mayors. Ursula von der Leyen said very explicitly that she sees these as humanity-free zones that have no place in our union. I think that got the biggest round of applause of all. And then just a word, of course, very importantly about migration. She spoke about the fires in the Moria camp and those thousands of people that are essentially homeless and don't know what's going to happen to them. She said that the European Commission is going to be putting forward its new migration proposals very soon, that saving lives at sea is not optional, although she didn't mention any specific member states on that. And she said that she expects all member states to step up when it comes to migration. And of course, we know that that will be a big battle ahead.
Now, Catherine, you mentioned there that idea of the EU holding together, presenting a united front, but they do have testy relationships with other countries around the world at times. What did she have to say about those ties?
Yeah, they certainly do. On a couple of sort of third country or foreign policy issues. Well, firstly, Brexit, big issue of the moment. She spent almost 10 minutes on this out of just over an hour speech. Firstly, stating support for Michel Barnier, the negotiator, and admitting that the talks with the UK have not progressed as the EU would have wished. And she said that there's little time left. On the recent moves by the UK government to go back on parts of the withdrawal agreement, and let's remember that government ministers in Westminster admitted that this would break international law, there were very stern words from Ursula von der Leyen. She said that this withdrawal agreement cannot be unilaterally changed or disapplied. And she even went so far as to quote Margaret Thatcher in English, that famous British Conservative Party Prime Minister. She said, Margaret Thatcher said, Britain does not break its treaties. So a bit of a direct message there to Margaret Thatcher's party, now led today by Boris Johnson, of course. A couple of other international relationships to run through. On the US, she said that we may not always agree with the White House, but we'll always cherish the transatlantic alliance. A bit of a joint swipe, I think, at Trump and Putin at one point, talking about countries that want to retreat into isolation. But she said that it will never be about Europe first when it comes to the EU. More specifically on Russia, she talked about the poisoning of Alexei Navalny as being part of a pattern of meddling around the world, including in Georgia, Syria, and in elections. And she made a reference to this Nord Stream pipeline between Russia and Germany, which has really come into question since the poisoning of Alexei Navalny. On Belarus, she stated support from the EU for protesters there, and she also talked about the importance of the relationship with China, but said that it's simultaneously one of the most strategically important and most challenging relationships that the EU has. And she said she wants the EU to stand up for human rights, citing specifically what's going on in Hong Kong and the situation with the Uyghur people in China.